Good morning, everyone. So here is a 2021 Sienna hybrid. So I will be demonstrating how to remove the hybrid battery today and get that replaced. All right. So here we are. The first thing we want to do is remove 4 of these bolts. So the first thing first is we got to move the chair all the way to the front on both sides. To save time, I like to use an electrical drill, but initially I use a ratchet to get the bolt loose, snap them out. So place them on one corner, and then let's go to the front. So what we want to do is move the seat all the way back until we have the 2 front bolts showing, which is right here and right here. And we're going to do it for both sides. Like that. So now we need to move the seat all the way back. And then we could carefully lift this up. Be careful because there's a hardness over here. We try not to overstretch it too much. So we need to remove this connector. There's one right here. And then the yellow connector over here. Push the tab here, pull out. Same thing on the other connector right here. You push on the tab, push out. And a lot of the time, these yellow means airbag. So push the white tab, pull out the yellow sleeve, and then push the white tab again. So it's a 2-stage. So there you go. That's disconnected. Push on this and pull out the whole harness. Now you can put it aside, and then you can remove the seat. Okay, this is the passenger side. So when you remove this, be careful because this actually is clipped on here. Once you pull it up, you might be surprised because it's gonna, you hear that? It pops. It's okay, but just try and hold onto the seat. And then so some of the connectors we need to remove is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Push and pull. Remember, the yellow one are dual stage. Pull out the yellow cover and then push the white tab again. There you go. Gray one, same here. You push the tab and pull on the connector. Oh, this one is slightly different. You pull on this one and pull out. So this one's fairly easy, straightforward. Okay, so we need to remove the center console. And the first thing we need is a pick like this to remove the shifter. Push down. And then in the back, there's a clip. And the pick, it's where we use the clip, push it out. Here's the small little clip. And you pull this out. So inside a car, you see how the clip sits flush like this. We need to use a pick. Go in here, pull out, and then yank the clip off, and then pull the shift knob upward. After that, we have to remove the shifter console, and they're just plastic clips. You just go pull like this and yank. You see, they're just plastic clips. You see these tiny little clips. They're actually holding onto so we got to get those removed before you can pull out the right side console trim. Here you can see the tab was slightly pulled off. Pull on that, and then the whole thing comes out like this. Now we could try and yank this out. Just like that. There she is. And then we need to remove the upper trim as well, and kind of push up to the left side of you on the driver's side like this, and then you could just pull straight up. So now we have the upper portion. We also need to remove the bottom as well. Just remove the bottom. This is time that we use a bone tool in case if it's a vehicle, you don't damage or scratch the trim pieces. Pop in here. Once you get it in, then you could just use your hand to pop and remove the trim. On the driver's side, it's a little bit different. There's a clip on the very bottom over here that we need to pull out. Yank that out. It just looks something like this. Same thing. Stick your hand on the bottom if you're able to, and then pull out. Yank. It's best to give it a quick yank, but not too hard, and it should pop right out. Remove this piece. So this way, we got it removed. One thing need to mention is this hole here, it's actually for the lower trim foot panel where this actually goes in, right here. If you don't put it back in here, it's gonna rattle. Okay, so same thing, tools to remove the rear end of the center console. There's two plastic clips right here. We gotta get that removed. Here's number one, number two. And then you jam this in here, kind of lift this up, get your hand behind and pull. Pull back and slightly on the bottom, push back like this. Now don't yank too hard because there's a cable and we need to disconnect that. So push on the clip, pull that out. Now we have the rear end of the center console removed. So this is the driver's side with the 3 Phillips screw removed. Same thing. So pry on that indent. You see there's an indent right over there. You gotta use your finger, push this so that it's away from the center console, push forward and pull out. Yank on this, this. Let's do the other side. Clip over here, these tiny little things with the 3 screws removed. Pull on the top, and then right here is where you push forward, and here it comes loose. Now you can actually pull on this. So here, push down this tab before it pull out, otherwise they break fairly easily. Have a long pick like this in the center. You push like that. That's what it is. There you go. Push on the center and twist. Yank this one out, and that one, the front comes right out. Okay, so now we're gonna remove the upper center console shifter assembly. Like that. Boom. That's it. Comes loose. You kind of shift this forward, and then you can lift this up. On the bottom, there's a connector that we gotta push and pull out. Okay. And then you have the whole console remove. Okay, so for the rear center console, it's pretty straightforward. There is 6 10mm bolts. 2 in the front over here, 2 in the back, 1 on each side. So there's 6. I'm gonna remove. Here's 1, 2, and then right here, 3, 4, right here in the center of the center console. So once you have 6 of these removed, there's a harness connector that's in the tunnel right here that goes from the front to the back. Make sure you get that disconnect. We actually have to pull out like this because there's a clip that holds the, pull it out. We have to remove these tiny little clips. There should be 4 of them. 4 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you do that, you yank on this. Same thing on this side, you kind of pull it out and you slide this holding back. There's one more connector in the back end, and now we could get the holding removed and put it outside. Okay, so right now we need to remove the front section of the center console, but in order to do that, we need to remove the glove box. We also need to remove this bottom piece. Okay, so we need to lift up the carpet. First thing first is we gotta remove this clip from here, and you pull forward towards you, like that. Comes out. Then you get pull the clip off. Pull this towards you, and then there's a clip. You just gotta yank it towards the outside of the vehicle, and then this is the filter. Flip up the carpet like this. There's two clips. I already had that removed in advance. Just remove two clips. Just yank this out. And the connector of the blower motor. This one right here. Push down on the tab. Remove all the 10 millimeter. Okay. So we move the fan. Just place it over here. So now we have both carpet lifted and held in place. We need to disconnect these connectors. I recommend getting them removed because after we remove these later, I'll show you, otherwise you could easily pinch it. Remember, this hybrid battery right now is still live, so we need to disconnect the battery. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 10 millimeter nuts. This also has a little tricky little clip on here. You could put a flathead, push down and twist until it kind of pop up. So once it pops up like this, now you can lift this in there. In order to secure it, you have to push down and turn again. Now with this, we lift up this whole cover, put it aside, and this is the connector that we could disconnect the hybrid battery with the vehicle. Pull out, flip upward, that's it. And the battery is no longer live. Well, it's live within the battery itself, but the vehicle has now been disconnected with the high voltage system. Again, we need to remove the clips that's holding this harness. Push down on this, disconnect this. Push down, pull out from the vehicle, the battery. So push this one here. This one, let's pull. No need to mark them because they're pretty straightforward. So there should be only 4 more bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 millimeters. And then, but we still got to disconnect the high voltage cable from the back end here. You guys are probably thinking, well, shouldn't you be wearing a lot of you know, protections, cables, whatnot, gloves, whatnot, to protect yourself? No, basically once it's disconnected, it's not live over there, so I could just go ahead and disconnect it like normal. There is a 10 millimeter ground right here that we need to remove. They're stubborn. There you go. Flip it up and pull that out. Push down on the clip and here it is. And pry it off. There. Now it is off. This wheel. 2. Alright. We're basically ready to get the battery removed. And then once it's outside the vehicle, I'll show you guys the removal of the old battery and installation of the new battery cells. Alright guys, we have the hybrid battery removed from the vehicle. Here are our new lithium-ion upgraded batteries. Now these are our own developed batteries, and they are going to be giving us more power, more density, and technically give us more gasoline mileage as well. So there's 40 pieces of these inside over here. So I'm going to show you, you know, what we need to do to remove this cover, and then we'll go from there. We will be removing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolts over here. We're going to remove one nut, 1, 2, and then 4 of these over here. With the temp sensor, I'll show you how to disconnect this inside. It sits right here. And then on the back end, basically this is the like a fuse relay box that controls all of these modules, sense the signals, etc. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then 2 bolts in here. They're sitting right there. And then another bolt, 2 nuts. And on this side, we have 4 nuts. So it's actually good to have a magnetic tray like this. I like to put it on the side, so when I actually get them removed, so I like to put the bolts on one side and nuts on the other side. All the nuts out. Put it over here. 4 more over here. Now, a lot of time I recommend people to actually mark them in case you forget where the part goes. For example, this is the left side. I would put a left on the bracket here, and then the other side is going to be the right side. And then I also mark the casing as well, front, left, and right. That way you won't mix them up, and this should be pretty straightforward according to how the vehicle or the battery sits inside the vehicle. So right here, disconnect these. You're gonna pry off these clips. So you have this, and then now we have to remove the bolts over here. Remove this out, leave the air vent attached. So over here, there's 2 tabs here. You gotta push these in order for it to come off from where this attaches to the vent. This is a sensor, so be careful not to break this. Otherwise, you would have to buy the harness for the sensor. Okay. Pull this out, disconnect it from the bracket here, and now we have to disconnect the connector to the module here. Press, remove, bolt and nut remove. We can remove this bracket and then remove any of these connectors. For this one right here, push on the tab, pull out. On the bottom, same thing, push on the tab, pull out, put it aside. Same thing on here. These doesn't get mixed up, so just leave it alone. And then there's 4 nuts, 1, 2, 3, and 4 nut that we need to remove the relay box. So if you have a 10mm magnetic socket here, it would be a lot easier. But I have a magnet here that helps me pull these out. Now, once you get this off, this is the relay box. We'll just place it aside. And in here, we have 2 more bolts and 2 more nuts that we need to remove. So once you get that off, you could basically yank this cover off, place this on the side. I kind of just leave it hanging here. Lift this up. And voila. So here's a good time to actually mark down where the temp sensors are. So you see I have X here, that's on number 1, and a clip on number 6, and then a clip and a sensor here, number 12, clip on 16, and then a sensor on 19, sensor on 21. The battery cells that I marked with an X, it's the sensor, and then 24 where the clip is, 28 it's a clip, 30 it's a sensor with the X, 36 clip, 40 it's a sensor. So these sensor must be reused. If you break them, you would have to rebuy this whole harness from the dealership. Push the tab like this, and then you take out the sensor. And for the clip, you push down on the white piece, it comes off like that. Pretty straightforward. Same thing. And then same thing over here. Push it up, and then pull back, lift, push down on the clip. Okay, so that is how the harness comes out. Once we expose the battery, disconnect the harness, we need to flip it over. And then you kind of flip it over. Now these are heavy. Flip it over, and now we've exposed all of the screws over here. There you go. Okay. Flip it up. And then I'll show you guys how to get them removed easily. So if you look at, there's an orange tab right here with the indents like these. This is, and then there's a small little hole. That's where you poke to get the cover removed. Otherwise, you could break them. This, pry it out. And this one, it's a little bit tricky. That's loose, and the same on these. I think this one you could just finger pull them off like that. So with the battery, we avoid touching from here to here, because between these, the battery stacks. They're about 7.2 to 7.3 volts. So each of these, they add up. So the further you're touching out towards this, that's a big no-no. From here to here, you're fine. So make sure we don't touch here and then touch somewhere on the other side simultaneously. So here, same thing. Pry on them. There. So that's that. This is on one side and this is on the other side. Mark where the wire goes. So I know this cable on this side, nobody switches them. These two are fine. Try not to touch them across. Now you can safely remove these bus bars. Now we just need to lower this and flip it over to the other side. Alright. These are about the same. Press the tab. Like that. Like that. Would be a lot easier if we have something that actually holds the battery in place instead of me trying to hold one side, meanwhile trying to remove all these nuts on here. Okay, put it here. Well, I could tell you that these are still in pretty good condition. No corrosion whatsoever. Remove this side and place them right here. Get this removed too. So we got to stand this battery up. We have to remove the 4 screws on the very top. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this whole thing comes out. So we have from 1 to 40 down, but take notice they are stacked differently. As you can see, there's a vent that's on all the odd number cells. Have the vent over here, and on the left side are all the even number cells right here. So these are the old batteries. The old battery starting from the very bottom, it's a negative and then positive, negative, positive sequence. So here I stacked 4 stacks of batteries that's going from negative, positive, all the way to the top. So for easier installation, I do 10 at a time. So the new batteries have a small indent. Make sure they're all lined up properly. And the vents are actually between the 2 holes over here. It sits in like that. Make sure this is seated properly. Gotta push them down because they are not completely flat. All right, so here's our bus bar, and then we have to make sure we replace all the plates over here. They do get corrode over time. See how they're building corrosion around the plate, and they need to be replaced. And these comes in the baggie like this in every box of battery. All you gotta do is put it in the right position and snap right in, and just do that for every single bus bar along with the harness over there. Okay, so I have the bus bar installed. Now we just need to zap it in. Make sure, pro tip, if your drill have a different option setting, put it on the weakest setting so that it just snaps right in. And make sure you don't cross or touch the nut from one set of bus bar to the other. Otherwise, you could short out. Okay, once these are in, then you snap the cover on there. Okay, for the cover, it's best to mark them and then remember where they go. Make your life during the reassembly a lot easier. Otherwise, you would have to try and see which one fits properly. So the cover's installed, and then we need to flip it over to the other side and do that as well. All right, so I have the other side of the bus bar installed. Put all the bolts on there. Make sure you hand turn them in. Do not use the drill, because once you cross thread them, it's going to be a nightmare to remove everything and redo the whole thing again, okay? So once you have it, again, use the softest setting. Okay, once they're in, then you just need to snap the cover back on there. Okay, so now that's back together. All right, so with the bus bar installed and the cap installed as well, we need to lay this flat with the harness facing me. Then we could put the cover back on. Of course, make sure you reinstall the bracket clip for protection. And then once it's installed, make sure all the holes are aligned properly. So with all the nuts and bolts put back on here, we just need to zap it in, okay? I like to zap it in from the inside out so that the battery cover flexes and sit in there evenly and flush. I like to rotate it in a pattern like this so that it gets installed and sits flush that way. Double checked. Okay, we're good. Now we just need to flip it over and install the other side. Okay, a little tip and trick when installing these bolts back onto the bottom piece of the battery cover. A lot of time it does not line up properly. So what you got to do is the four bolts over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got to loosen it up about 1/4 of an inch, and then kind of lift the cover up, readjust the battery, and see if they fit into the align with the holes on the cover. Once you have that set, then you could just tighten them slightly, put the bolt in there, and then torque it down. After that, then you could torque all your bolts on the bottom of cover up, and then you'll be set. All right, so now we got the sensor harness that we're going to reinstall back into the battery, where we pre-marked everything. So here you can see X, it's where I put the sensor, the number, it's where the clip is, etc. So we'll just get that installed. Okay, during the installation of this harness, we got to make a small modification to the center battery where this sensor harness bracket is. The battery needs to be shaved down so it's flushed. You can see the bracket over here. It's a lot taller. We just need to shave it down. And on the bracket itself, normally they sit flush like this. We just have to put 2 cuts and push the tab over. Then now it will sit normally and sit flushed. That way it could be reused. Again, we attach the rest of the harness and the connectors. All right, so we just need to assemble the top cover back onto the battery. Once that's seated, now we just need to put the nut and bolt back on there. I always try to install the bolts by hand first so that I potentially don't cross thread them when I install them. And we just need to zap it in. the power output to stage 2. Zap this in here. Now I'm going to install the sensor to the fan outlet over here. So they need to be squeezed in. Let's hang it on the side right here like this. It's easier. Like that. Okay. Make sure that's in. Push the sensor in there. First clip to the harness. And then we can secure the nuts on these. And zap it in. And same thing for this other side. So make sure the bottom over here get fitted in here. It is a snug fit. So you kind of wiggle it in. Align these. There you go. Tap it. 4 nuts over here. And then as we stated earlier, left side to the left side on the casing. Make sure they match. Now we just need to install the rest of the nuts on here. Route this black harness. Attach that to the top. So this attaches to the bottom. Right here. Just like this. This one comes here. Orange. Okay. So the 2 nuts. And zap them in. Make sure there's no harness down here and get pinched. Secure the connector in here. That's that. All right, so we need to install the relay box back on here. And then this harness clips on here. Connect this connector to the BMS module. Clip on here. Clip this on here. Now we have this and this. So to make it easy, snap this in here. These are in. Now connect the connectors back in here. That one goes here. There's the bottom one and then the upper one. And install the 2 nuts. Great. Now we just need to put the cover back on here. That sits in there. There's the 2 nuts on the side that holds the bracket. Then 2 bolts. That sits right in the inside where the relay box, in front of the relay box. Now, zap this back in. We checked all the connections. All right, the battery's all back together. Make sure all connections are tight and secured. Harness are plugged in. And we just need to put it back into the car in reverse order. And after that, we're going to start the car and check to see everything is good. Okay, so with the hybrid battery back into the vehicle, before we put everything back, we need to test, make sure the hybrid system is working correctly. Now, as you can see, I scanned the vehicle. It's showing us there's a high voltage performance fault. So we're going to clear the fault. Okay, so all we have left, the fault that we have left is seat sensors, SRS, AC system, because the harness was disconnected. Let me do another scan. So we still have the hybrid EV cooling fan over temp because both fan it's not connected. But that tells you the battery, it's actually good now. It's just that we need to reconnect. So once I reassemble everything, we clear the fault, and then we'll come back here and double check to make sure everything is good before we road test the car. So we got the battery installed. Let's take a look what we have. So there's no more fault in the system. As you can see, we got it reset at 91,641 miles. And let's take a look at the battery charge level. So right now you can see it's about 80% charge came from the factory. So it's already 5:39, pretty dark outside. So we're gonna wrap it, call it a day, wrap it up, and then show the final results once we get home with the gasoline consumption data.